My husband's mistress showed up at my door with a smile, thinking she'd won. She had no idea I had been planning her destruction for 6 months. Let me tell you how this started. My name is Claire, and until 8 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. Married to Marcus for 12 years, beautiful house in the suburbs, successful career as a financial analyst. We were that couple everyone envied at dinner parties. Then I found the receipt. It was stupid, really. A crumpled piece of paper in his jacket pocket when I was taking clothes to the dry cleaner. Hotel bar, 2 glasses of wine, cheese plate. The date was our anniversary, the same night he'd texted me saying he had to work late on a big presentation. I didn't confront him. That's what everyone expects, right? The big dramatic scene, tears and screaming and thrown dishes. But I'm not everyone. Instead, I did what I do best. I investigated. See, people think financial analysis is just about numbers and spreadsheets, but really, it's about finding patterns, following trails, seeing what people are trying to hide. And Marcus was hiding a lot. I started with his credit card statements. I had access to everything because we shared accounts. Joint finances, joint life, joint lies. The hotel charges went back 7 months. Always the same hotel, always on Tuesday evenings, always charged to his personal card, not our joint account. He thought he was being clever. Then I checked his phone records online. Hundreds of texts to a number I didn't recognize. Always during work hours, always deleted from his actual phone by the time he got home. But phone companies keep records of everything. I called the number from a burner phone I'd bought with cash. A woman answered. "Hey, baby, leaving work early?" Her voice was young, flirty, excited. I hung up without saying anything. That night at dinner, Marcus kissed my forehead and told me about his day, talked about a difficult client, a project deadline, asked about my day with genuine interest in his eyes. And I smiled and told him about a meeting with my boss, laughed at his jokes, poured him more wine. I was already planning his destruction, and he had no idea. Over the next few weeks, I built my case like I was preparing a forensic audit, because that's essentially what this was, an audit of my marriage, and the numbers didn't add up. I hired a private investigator, not some sleazy guy from a movie, but a professional firm that specialized in corporate investigations. I told them I suspected my husband of embezzling from his company. They didn't need to know the real reason. The photos came back within a week. Her name was Jessica. 26 years old, she worked as a marketing coordinator at Marcus's firm. Blonde hair, perfect skin, one of those women who probably never had an awkward phase. They'd met at the hotel bar every Tuesday evening for the past 7 months. Sometimes they'd get a room, sometimes they'd just drink and talk and touch each other's hands across the table like teenagers in love. The investigator's report was thorough. Her address, her daily routine, her coffee order at the Starbucks near her apartment, her gym membership, her social media accounts that were set to public because she was too young and stupid to understand privacy. I studied her like I'd study a company before a major investment. Jessica posted everything online, her thoughts, her feelings, her entire life on display for anyone to see. She posted cryptic things about finally finding real love, and some things are worth waiting for. Her friends commented with heart emojis and "you deserve happiness" messages. They had no idea she was talking about destroying someone else's marriage. But here's the thing I noticed. Jessica wasn't just some dumb girl having an affair with a married man. She was ambitious. Her LinkedIn profile showed she'd been promoted twice in 18 months. Her Instagram showed designer bags and expensive dinners that a marketing coordinator salary shouldn't afford. Marcus was funding her lifestyle. The money I'd earned working 60-hour weeks was buying another woman's Gucci bags. That's when I stopped feeling sad and started feeling focused. I could have divorced him, taken half of everything, and moved on. That's what most people would do. But I'm not most people. And besides, half wasn't enough. I wanted everything. So I made a plan. First, I needed to understand their relationship. Were they in love, or was this just sex and money? I spent hours reading through Jessica's social media posts, looking for patterns. She posted a lot about expensive things, designer clothes, fancy restaurants, weekend trips to wine country. but she rarely posted about Marcus directly, just vague references to being happy, to finding someone who gets her. That told me something important. She liked what Marcus could give her more than she liked Marcus himself. I could work with that. Next, I needed leverage. I started documenting everything. Every hotel charge, every suspicious text message timing, every late night at the office that was actually a late night with Jessica. I created a spreadsheet because that's how my brain works. Dates, times, amounts spent, locations. A complete record of the affair. But I also needed something bigger. Something that would destroy Marcus professionally, not just personally. That's when I remembered the company merger. Marcus worked for a mid-sized tech firm that was in the process of being acquired by a larger corporation. He was on the team handling the transition. He'd been bringing work home, taking calls at odd hours, stressing about deadlines. The merger was supposed to close in 4 months, and if everything went smoothly, Marcus would get a significant bonus. We're talking 6 figures. The company had strict ethics policies. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates had to be disclosed. Marcus was 2 levels above Jessica in the corporate hierarchy. Their relationship was a fireable offense. But I didn't want him fired yet. I wanted him to get that bonus first. Then I'd destroy him. So I waited, and I watched, and I played the role of the perfect, oblivious wife. 3 months went by. Marcus got sloppy. He stopped deleting all his texts, started coming home with her perfume on his collar, stopped wearing his wedding ring when he went to work dinners. He thought he wasn't noticing. I noticed everything. Jessica got bolder too. She started posting more frequently about her secret love, about how soon everything will be out in the open, about how good things come to those who wait. She was threatening him, threatening to expose the affair. Marcus started drinking more, staying up late. I'd catch him staring at his phone with this terrified look on his face. I played the concerned wife, asked if work was stressing him out, suggested he take some time off, made his favorite dinners. He actually thanked me for being so understanding. Then Jessica made her first mistake. She showed up at Marcus's office, made a scene in the lobby. Security had to escort her out. His boss called him in for a meeting, asked if there was anything he needed to disclose about his relationship with a junior employee. He denied everything, said Jessica was obsessed with him, that he turned down her advances and now she was harassing him. His boss seemed to believe him, but HR opened an investigation anyway. Company policy. That's when I made my anonymous call to HR, from a burner phone, disguising my voice. I told them about the hotel charges, gave specific dates, suggested they pull the security footage, mentioned that Marcus had used company funds to take Jessica to several client dinners that weren't actually with clients. The last part was true. I had found those charges in his expense reports. He'd been billing the company for his dates with Jessica, claiming they were business development meetings. That's fraud. That's termination. That's potential criminal charges. The HR investigation expanded. Marcus started getting called into meetings. His boss stopped making eye contact with him in the hallways. His bonus, which hadn't been fully paid out yet, was frozen pending the investigation results. Too bad I'd already moved the portion he did receive. Marcus came home one evening in March looking destroyed. He told me HR was investigating some misunderstandings about expense reports. He said someone was out for him. Maybe a jealous coworker. He looked at me with these puppy dog eyes and said he was so grateful to have me, that I was the only person he could trust. I held him while he cried into my shoulder, told him everything would be okay, that the truth always comes out. I wasn't lying about that part. A week later, Jessica showed up at my door. She was wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled. She had the smile on her face, confident and cruel. She thought she was coming to claim her prize, to tell the wife that she'd lost. "Hi, you must be Claire," she said, like we were old friends meeting for coffee. "I think we need to talk about Marcus." I invited her in, made tea. We sat in my living room, 2 women in our different stages of life, about to have a very interesting conversation. "I know about the affair," I said calmly, before she could launch into whatever speech she'd prepared. She had the decency to look uncomfortable for about a second, then that smile came back. "Then you know it's over between you two. Marcus loves me. We're going to be together. Really? I sipped my tea. Is that why he's planning our vow renewal next month? Is that why he told HR you're harassing him? The smile faltered. He's lying to you, I continued. He's been lying to both of us. But here's the difference between me and you, Jessica. I've known for 8 months, and I've been planning. Planning what? Marcus came home that evening looking confused and shaken. Jessica had quit without giving notice, just sent an email to HR saying she was leaving effective immediately. No explanation, no forwarding address. That's strange, I said, not looking up from the pasta I was stirring. Did you two work together much? Not really, he lied. Just strange timing, with the investigation and everything. The investigation concluded 2 weeks later. Marcus was fired for misuse of company funds and violation of workplace ethics policies. They didn't press criminal charges, but they demanded he return the portion of his bonus that hadn't been paid out yet. They also sent a letter to his professional licensing board. He came home in the middle of the afternoon, carrying a box of his desk belongings. I was working from home that day, watching him through the window as he sat in the driveway for 20 minutes before coming inside. "They fired me," he said when he finally walked through the door. "Why?" He told me a version of the story, a sanitized version, where he was the victim of a vindictive employee who'd made false accusations, where the company was covering their ass during the merger, where he'd been sacrificed for politics and optics. I listened, nodded, made sympathetic sounds. "We'll figure it out," I said. "We have savings. We'll be okay." He hugged me, actually cried a little bit, said he didn't deserve me. That part was true, at least. Over the next few weeks, Marcus spiraled. He'd been so confident, so sure of himself, the golden boy who'd climbed the corporate ladder, and now he was unemployed, with a reputation that preceded him. Every job interview led nowhere. Every networking call went unanswered. The tech industry in our city wasn't that big. Word spread fast about why he'd been fired. No one wanted to hire him. He started drinking more, stopped shaving, spent days on the couch scrolling through job listings and firing off applications that never got responses. I kept working, kept our life running, paid the bills from the account he didn't know about, watched him sink deeper into depression. I probably should have felt bad for him. Probably should have felt some guilt, but every time I thought about feeling sympathetic, I'd remember those text messages, those promises to Jessica, the way he'd lied to my face every single day for 7 months. So, no, I didn't feel bad. One evening in May, about a month after he'd been fired, Marcus was drunk on the couch when he finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Did you know about Jessica?" I looked up from my laptop. "Know what?" "Don't play dumb, Claire. You're too smart for that. Did you know about the affair?" I could have kept lying, could have played the hurt wife, shocked and betrayed, but I was tired of pretending. "Yes," I said simply. "I knew." His face went through several emotions: shock, confusion, anger. "How long?" 8 months. Since I found the hotel receipt." 8 months? And you didn't say anything? "No." "Why?" "Because I was planning." He sat up straighter, some of the drunkenness leaving his eyes. "Planning what?" "This. All of this. Your firing, Jessica leaving, the investigation, everything." I watched him process this, watched the realization dawn on his face. You? You did this?" "I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it." Watched him process this, watched the realization dawn on his face. "You did this?" "I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it." Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? I documented everything. Every lie, every expense report you falsified, every ethics violation. I gave the HR the evidence they needed to fire you. I made sure Jessica understood she needed to disappear. I orchestrated all of it. Watched him process this. Watched the realization dawn on his face. You did this? 6 months after the divorce was finalized, something unexpected happened. I got a letter, not an email, an actual physical letter forwarded from my lawyer's office. It was from Jessica. I almost threw it away without reading it. I'd thought about her occasionally over the past year, checking to make sure she was keeping her end of our deal. She was. New job in Seattle, new life, no social media presence, no attempts to contact Marcus or me. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened the envelope. The letter was handwritten, 3 pages. Her rounding was neat, almost childish. Dear Claire, it started. I don't know if you'll read this, but I needed to write it anyway. I need to thank you. I almost laughed. Thank me? For what? Destroying her relationship and forcing her to leave her life behind? But I kept reading. When you confronted me that day in your living room, I hated you. I thought you were cruel, vindictive. I thought you were punishing me for falling in love with your husband. But I was wrong. You weren't punishing me. You were showing me who I'd become. I'd spent months posting about secret love and finding happiness and deserving more. But what I was really doing was helping a man betray his wife, using him to advance my career, becoming someone I didn't recognize. You could have destroyed me. You had all the evidence. You could have sent that email to everyone I knew and ruined my life forever. But you didn't. You gave me a choice. Disappear and start over, or face the consequences of my actions. I chose to start over. Moving to Seattle was terrifying. I didn't know anyone, had to find a new job, a new apartment, build a new life from scratch. But it was also freeing. I wasn't the girl who'd slept with her married boss anymore. I was just Jessica, trying to figure out who she wanted to be. I got therapy, real therapy, not just the kind where you complain about your problems but never change anything. I dealt with my issues with self-worth and validation, and why I'd thought dating a married man was acceptable. I started my new job at the bottom, even though I was overqualified, didn't accept any promotions that came with strings attached, built my reputation on actual work instead of who I was sleeping with. It's been 18 months now. I'm a senior marketing manager at a tech startup. I earned it. Really earned it. I'm dating someone age-appropriate who's actually single. We're taking it slow. I'm learning what a healthy relationship looks like. I'm becoming someone I'm proud of, someone my parents would be proud of, someone I can see in the mirror without feeling ashamed. And you have you to thank for that. You could have taken the easy route and just exposed me, destroyed me because it would feel good to destroy the woman who'd been with your husband. But instead, you gave me a chance to become better. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that your mercy wasn't wasted on me. I'm trying to be worthy of the second chance you gave me. I hope you're happy. I hope you're thriving. I hope you found someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated all along. Thank you for seeing something in me worth saving, even when I couldn't see it myself. Jessica. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Jessica had taken the opportunity I'd given her and built something better. That was enough. But the letter made me think about my own choices, about the year I'd spent plotting revenge, about whether I'd done the right thing. I'd destroyed Marcus, completely, thoroughly, without mercy. Was that justice? Or was it just revenge dressed up in prettier words? I brought it up with Dr. Chen, my therapist, during our next session. Do you regret what you did? She asked. No, but sometimes I wonder if I should. Why? Because maybe I went too far. Maybe I could have just divorced him and moved on. Maybe destroying his entire life was excessive. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. Claire, when you came to me a year ago, you told me you wanted to make sure you were handling your husband's betrayal in a healthy way. Do you remember what I said? You said there's no one right way to handle betrayal, that I needed to do what felt right for me while being honest about my motivations. And were you honest about your motivations? Yes, I wanted him to lose everything because he tried to have everything. I wanted consequences for his actions. And he experienced those consequences. He lost his job, his reputation, his marriage, his assets. Those were natural results of his own choices. You didn't frame him for something he didn't do. You didn't lie. You just ensured that the truth came out in a way that protected your interests. But I planned it. For months, I let him keep lying while I built my case against him. You protected yourself. You made sure that when the marriage ended, you weren't left with nothing. Is that wrong? I thought about it. No, but it feels calculating. Being calculating isn't the same as being wrong. You used your skills and intelligence to navigate a difficult situation. You could have acted impulsively, confronted him immediately, and ended up with less. Instead, you were strategic. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you smart. What about Jessica? I threatened her, made her leave everything behind. You gave her a choice, face consequences or start over. She chose to start over, and from what you've told me, she's better for it. You could have destroyed her completely. Instead, you offered mercy. That was a kind thing to do, even if it didn't feel kind at the time. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Claire, I think you're struggling with the fact that you're not the victim in this story the way society expects women to be. You didn't fall apart. You didn't beg your husband to stay. You didn't forgive and try to make it work. You took control, and you won. And that makes people uncomfortable because it challenges the narrative about how wronged women are supposed to behave. She was right. I'd heard it from a few people who knew what happened. Comments about how I was cold for not trying to save my marriage, how I was calculating for protecting my assets, how I was harsh for making Jessica leave. Never mind that Marcus was the one who cheated. Never mind that he'd committed fraud. Never mind that Jessica had knowingly participated in an affair with a married man. Somehow I was the one people were uncomfortable with. You did what you needed to do to protect yourself and secure your future. You didn't break any laws. You didn't physically harm anyone. You just refused to be a victim. There's nothing wrong with that. I left that session feeling lighter, more confident in my choices. Yes, I'd been calculating. Yes, I'd been strategic. Yes, I'd destroyed Marcus's life. But he destroyed his own life first. He just didn't realize it because his destruction was slow and quiet, death by 1,000 cuts of betrayal and lies and disrespect. My destruction was just faster and more efficient. A few weeks later, I ran into someone from Marcus's old company. Sarah, a woman I'd met at several corporate events. She had always been friendly, one of those people who remembers everyone's names and asks genuine questions. We were both at a coffee shop downtown. She recognized me and came over. Claire, I haven't seen you forever. How are you? We chatted for a few minutes, the usual presidencies. She mentioned she'd heard about the divorce. I'm sorry. I know those are never easy. I'm doing well, actually. Better than I've been in years. That's good. She hesitated. Can I tell you something, off the record? Sure. Everyone at the company knows what Marcus did. Not just the affair, but the fraud, the expense reports, using company money for personal expenses. It was worse than what came out in the official investigation. I stayed quiet, letting her talk. There were other women at the company, too, before Jessica. Nothing that lasted long enough to call affairs, but inappropriate relationships with subordinates. HR had complaints in his file going back years, but he was good at his job, so they ignored them, until you gave them enough evidence that they couldn't ignore it anymore. Other women, plural. It shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. I thought Jessica was a one-time mistake, a midlife crisis. Apparently, she was just the latest in a pattern. A lot of women at the company are grateful, Sarah said. He created a hostile work environment, made inappropriate comments, showed favoritism to women he found attractive. Everyone knew, but no one could prove anything. What you did, giving HR that evidence, it cleaned house. They've completely revamped their policies. It's a better place to work now. She touched my arm. So thank you. I know that probably wasn't why you did it, but you helped a lot of people. After she left, I sat there with my coffee, processing. I'd thought my actions only affected Marcus and Jessica, but apparently the ripples had spread further. Women at his old company felt safer, policies had changed, a serial harasser had been removed from a position of power. I'd done that. Not intentionally, but I'd done it. Maybe that's the thing about consequences. They're not always just for the person you're aiming at. Sometimes they create change in ways you never expected. That evening, I went to dinner with my boyfriend, David, the surgeon I'd mentioned before. We'd been dating for 6 months, taking it slow, like I said, but it was getting serious. Over wine and pasta, I told him about running into Sarah, about learning there had been other women, about the ripple effects of what I'd done. "How does that make you feel?" he asked. "Validated, I guess. Like maybe 2 years after everything went down, I got another unexpected message. This time, it was from Marcus's mother. I almost deleted it without reading. Deborah and I had never been close. She'd always thought Marcus was too good for me, that he'd married down. After the divorce, she'd sent me a vicious email blaming me for destroying her son's life and calling me every name you can imagine. I'd blocked her after that. But somehow she'd found my work email. The message was short. "Claire, I need to talk to you about Marcus. Please, it's important. Deborah." I shouldn't have responded. I had no obligation to this woman who'd always treated me like I wasn't good enough for her precious son. But something in the tone made me curious. I called her from my office during my lunch break. "Claire?" She answered on the first ring. Her voice sounded older, tired. "Thank you for calling. I wasn't sure you would. You said it was important." "It's about Marcus. He's not doing well. I know he's working retail, living with you. That's what happens when you commit fraud and lose your career." She was quiet for a moment. "It's worse than that. He's drinking, heavily. He won't see a therapist, won't apply for better jobs. He just sits in his room or drinks at bars. He's angry all the time, bitter. He blames you for everything. Of course he does. Claire, I didn't call to ask you to help him. I know you have no reason to. I called because I owe you an apology." That surprised me. An apology? After everything happened, after Marcus moved back home, I believed his version of events. That you were vindictive, that you destroyed him over a mistake. That Jessica was just an obsessed employee and you used that to take everything. But over the past 2 years, I've seen who my son really is. He's not the man I thought I raised. He lies about everything. Big things, small things. He manipulates. He blames everyone else for his problems. He never takes responsibility for anything. I could hear her voice breaking. Last week, I found text messages on his phone. He'd left it unlocked. There were messages to multiple women. Married women, single women, all the same pattern. Love bombing, promises, lies. He's doing the same things now that he did with Jessica and apparently did with others before her, except now he doesn't have money or status, so these women don't respond. Why are you telling me this? Because you were right. About all of it. You weren't vindictive. You were protecting yourself from a man who would have kept hurting you. I blamed you for destroying his career, but he destroyed it himself. You just made sure you didn't go down with him. She took a shaky breath. And I'm sorry for the things I said, for blaming you, for not raising a son who knew how to be a decent husband. You deserved better than what he gave you. I'm sorry I didn't see that sooner. I sat at my desk looking out at the city skyline. processing this conversation I never expected to have. Thank you, I said finally. I appreciate you saying that. Will you ever forgive him? She asked quietly. No. Forgiveness implies he learned something, changed, became better. From what you're describing, he hasn't. He's just angry he got caught. What should I do? He's my son. I love him, but I don't know how to help him. You can't help someone who doesn't think they need help. Marcus doesn't think he did anything wrong. He thinks he's the victim. Until he takes responsibility for his actions, nothing will change. I suppose you're right. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me about Marcus's father, who'd passed away the year before, about how difficult it had been to have Marcus living with them, bringing his chaos and anger into their home, about how she'd enabled him for too long. Before we hung up, she said one more thing. For what it's worth, Claire, I'm glad you got out. I'm glad you protected yourself. I wish I'd been the kind of mother-in-law who protected you instead of defending him. Thank you, Deborah. I hope things get better for you. After we hung up, I sat there for a while. I felt vindicated in a way I hadn't expected. Marcus's own mother saw through him now, understood who he really was. That validation meant more than I thought it would. But I also felt sad. Not for Marcus, but for Deborah. For any parent who realizes their child isn't who they thought they were. That has to be devastating. I didn't tell David about the call right away. That evening, we were at my place making dinner together. It was a comfortable routine we'd developed. He'd come over after his shift at the hospital. We'd cook, talk about our days, watch a movie. Sometimes he'd stay over, sometimes he'd go home. No pressure, no games. Just two adults building something real. You're quiet tonight, he observed as he chopped vegetables. Everything okay? I told him about the call from Deborah, about her apology, about Marcus's continued spiral. How do you feel about that? He asked. Validated. Sad for her. Nothing for him. Nothing at all? Not even pity? I thought about it. Really examined my feelings. No. Marcus had every opportunity to change, to get help, to take responsibility. He chose not to. He'd rather be bitter and angry and blame me than do the work to become better. I can't feel sorry for someone who refuses to help themselves. That's fair. Does that make me cold? David stopped chopping and looked at me. No, it makes you someone who understands that you can't save people who don't want to be saved. That's a lesson a lot of people never learn. We finished making dinner. As we ate, David told me about his day at the hospital, about a successful surgery, about a patient who'd made a successful recovery against the odds. You know what I love about surgery? It's clear. There's a problem, you fix it, and either it works or it doesn't. No ambiguity, no wondering if you made the right call. But life isn't like that. No, it's not. Life is messy. People are complicated. Situations are ambiguous. He reached across the table and took my hand. But I think you made the right call. With Marcus. With how you handled everything. Maybe it wasn't the nice call. Maybe it wasn't the forgiving call. But it was the right call for you. I think so too. Good. Then stop second-guessing yourself. You're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to move on. You're allowed to not care what happens to the man who tried to destroy you. He was right. I knew he was right. But it's hard to let go of the conditioning, the expectation that women should be nice, forgiving, should prioritize everyone else's feelings except their own. I love you, I said suddenly. David smiled. I love you too. It was the first time either of us had said it. It felt right, natural, true. I know we've been taking it slow, I continued, and I appreciate that. I needed that. But I think I'm ready to be less slow. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we stop keeping two apartments. Maybe we build something together. Maybe we stop protecting ourselves from the possibility of getting hurt and just be together. Are you sure? It hasn't been that long since Marcus? It's been 2 years, and I'm not comparing you to him. You're nothing like him. That's the point. I wasted 12 years on someone who didn't respect me. I don't want to waste any more time being cautious when I've found something real. David stood up and came around the table, pulled me to my feet, kissed me in that way that made me feel cherished, protected, valued. He said, "Let's do it. Let's build something together." We talked late into the night about logistics. His lease was up in 3 months. We'd move into my house, the one I'd fought so hard to keep, the one that represented my victory. It felt symbolic, filling my house with new memories, new love, a new life built on honesty instead of lies. 3 months later, David moved in. We painted the walls, changed the furniture, made the space ours instead of mine. My friends threw us a housewarming party. The house was filled with laughter and music and people who genuinely cared about us. It was everything my marriage to Marcus had never been. Real, honest, full of actual love. Sarah from Marcus's old company was there. She pulled me aside at one point. "I'm really happy for you. You deserve this, after everything you went through." "Thank you. Can I tell you something? There's a rumor going around that Marcus is writing a book about his side of the story, about how his wife destroyed his life." I laughed, actually laughed. Of course he is, because he still thinks he's the victim. Doesn't that worry you? No, because I have documentation of everything. Emails, text messages, bank statements, audio recordings. If he publishes lies about me, I'll sue him for defamation and take whatever pennies he has left. He knows that. His lawyer knows that. It's an empty threat. You really did think of everything, didn't you?